So can you describe the series of events that led to Iniko having to leave the nest unexpectedly?
Yeah, life in the wild is unexpected, and knowing the hierarchy structure of condors and what unfolded, it wasn't completely shocking, but it was after all that had happened. It definitely wasn't what anyone wanted to see. But what we were seeing, I believe, unfold is a young male seeing an opportunity. I think when Kingpin's presence was no longer there, these young males were able to come in and out of this territory unimpeded. And they quickly saw that as an opportunity. And, you see it with other animal species. I know it's with grizzly bears and have been known to, when they move into a territory and take over, they will sometimes get rid of the young and or even kill the young. And so we think a part of that was happening here. A male was seeing an opportunity to take over a prize territory held by a very high-ranking male, and we believe he was that was a chick unrelated to him, and he was obviously getting rid of anything left behind by 167. So, as harsh as it sounds, it's pretty common in the animal world. When you take over a territory, you kind of clean house, and we think that might have been what was happening. And again, it when when Kingpin's presence stopped, you realize the work he was putting in to protect that territory, probably on a daily basis, keeping birds at bay, and for such a dominant presence to leave, it was open season in a way for some of these younger males to not only come in but to come in and start to try to claim that territory. So what he was actually trying to do, a lot of this is speculative. I mean, we haven't ever seen this before firsthand like this. It's such high level of detail, but I think it was in a general sense, that's what was going on. And then, of course, when Iniko pre-fledged early because of the attack by Ninja, when Iniko went to the ground, and actually once she was on the ground, he continued to attack. That's when we knew that the writing was on the wall at that point, that things weren't looking good for Iniko, and that an evacuation was critical at this point. So we also noticed that Iniko had developed a fall from. So it was we were hoping Iniko, yeah, it was unfortunate had pre-fledged, but we were hoping that Iniko would have gotten up to a tree right away. Redwood Queen would have protected Iniko, and they would have stayed the course with life in the wild. But when Iniko had suffered that limp and the injury that we didn't, this unknown injury, and was not getting off the ground, and now it was vulnerable to any predator, not only to Ninja, but to any animal that, a mountain lion or anything that came along could have had, taken advantage of Iniko. So we saw the opportunity to evacuate Iniko, and we worked with our partners, with Fish and Wildlife Service, with LA Zoo, and everyone agreed that was the best option. And so that's what unfolded, and we were able to capture some of the footage of this. And again, this is not something we take lightly. This is a really rugged area that is just burned. Just the stress of handling and hiking this Iniko out could cause more damage than good. So we have to be really incredibly careful and calculated about how we do this anytime you take a bird out of the wild like this. So we try to give them the best chance they can, but then it hits a certain point and we have to make that decision. And we were glad we did. We were able to get Iniko safely to Los Angeles Zoo. And it was, I can't commend my field crew enough for what they did that day. If it's hard to put into words what I asked of them to do. It was a big ask, and they stepped up and really shined in that moment for Iniko. So, and then the story doesn't stop there. We got Iniko down to LA Zoo, and we didn't know, is she okay? what's her condition. So LA Zoo has a state-of-the-art veterinarian facility, not only for the animals in the zoo, but for all, but for condors. They are the experts in treating condors. So we were taking Iniko to the best spot on planet Earth to get treated, and she was in good hands from the start. Unfortunately, the radiographs they did right away showed there were no serious injuries to her legs, that the limp was probably a muscle bruise or a leg bruise. And since then, the limp has gone away. And then she had some other minor stuff that was easily treatable. And she is doing great. Here's a shot. So she went under some observation. She was under observation for a few days, but she started to make the turn, and they released her into one of their, they call them pre-release pens. So she will be in a pen with other birds her age that are on track to get released next year. So there's a very good chance she will get released down there at San Simeon with another group of pre-release birds. And since she's been in there, she's been a little more to herself, from what I hear from the staff at LA Zoo. But she's starting to warm up to some of the other birds, and I think that probably has a lot to do with the trauma she went through. She's probably, that was a series of events that I don't know too many condors have been through that much and survived. And so I think it's understandable that she's a little standoffish at this point, but everything else, she's got a clean bill of health, and we're looking forward to getting her out. And God, it'll be this time next year, so less than a year, we'll have her back up. So I'm anxiously awaiting that. I know all the folks that followed the whole saga of Iniko are very excited. So we all look forward to that day. And yeah, I think we made the best out of a crazy run of events. And again, I think without explore.org and the cameras, Iniko we would have never been able to do what we do. So I can't thank Explore enough for allowing us to share this with the world, and also allowing us to have this great tool of monitoring the birds.
And I do have a follow-up question on Iniko and, her stay down in the Los Angeles Zoo. And this kind of goes maybe looking ahead to her release. After fledging, young condors stay with their parents for another year often. Iniko will be, or I should say has been introduced to other captive condors, but how might the lack of a parental guide and guardian affect her behavior in the wild? Or is there even a need to worry about that? Many condors have been raised in captivity and go on to lead successful lives as wild birds. So I was just kind of curious about that dynamic.
Yeah, that's a great question. We definitely get that question in regards to Iniko, and will she have, nothing's better than mom and dad, right? Mom and dad showing you every step of the way. But what's awesome is the zoos have perfected, this method, which has helped save the species, of preparing captive reared birds for the wild. And we work closely with them. And the pen that you saw in that photo earlier, where Iniko is residing now, is a huge aviary. And she's in there not only with birds her age, but there's also, we call them mentor birds. And they're older birds that will help. Because what we found is if you have a bunch of young birds in a pen without guidance, it turns into kind of a Lord of the Flies kind of behavioral, it blows up. So we like to have these mentors. They're basically like foster mom and dads in there to kind of keep the peace and to keep these birds socially in line. Really, it's to keep them in tune with that hierarchy that is going to determine their success out in the wild. So the more familiar they are with their place in that hierarchy when they go out, that's probably the most important thing that Iniko will learn, and these other pre-release birds, is not only where their place is in the hierarchy, but building that confidence up. You don't want a bird so dominated that it's has zero confidence and it's afraid to move. You want them to be able to navigate within that, and these mentors are really great at not only enforcing the rules, but giving these birds leadway and letting them learn how to navigate and basically speak the language of condors, and being able to get out there and socialize with other birds. So and I spoke to it earlier today, is just that really that social behavior is probably as, if not more important as the physical development. It's just, it kind of goes hand in hand. The condors and the zoos have really done a great job at mimicking that in captivity, and that's really saved the species in terms of allowing us to release these birds without their parents at these ages when they naturally would wean off from their parents, which is right around 18 months. So yeah, it's been it's been a learning process for sure. The early years of releases, we learned that that we had to kind of evolve to this point. And but yeah, working with folks like at LA Zoo who are really keen on condor behavior has been a real treat, and can't thank them enough for everything they contribute, and all our partners. Yeah, so Iniko's journey's not done. She is definitely on the path to return to the wild, which is, for us, at the end of the day, that's the most important. She will contribute to the flock, and we're all curious to see that first time she reconnects with Redwood Queen out in the wild. What will that be like? I'm as curious as you. I would assume they're going to recognize each other. But at that time, 190 might be raising another chick and might not have as much time for Iniko. But honestly, Iniko will be developmentally. That's a time she would be going independent anyway and finding her own way, and she'll be making her own bonds with birds and potentially finding her new mate. And that's really that's what's going to keep the flock going. And yeah, it's going to be cool to see them back out together in the wild again. Reunited with her mom, and yeah, we're all looking forward to that day.